I don't know if he has an apartment.
All right, it's
He's got a
8:30. Morning, everybody. Let's get started. Welcome. Do we have any public comments either in the room or on Zoom?
I would just make one comment about the events of today. I just hope the board considers what the public comments have been in regard to the situation, and that what happens in an open meeting in front of everybody, what you voted on last week. And that for a 2-week evaluation of performance, if you guys can do quickly, you should bottle it and sell it. So that is my comment.
Any other comments? Any public comments? Okay, thank you. Minutes. We have minutes from the 29th.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Right.
Can't take any. but-
Meet with county engineer Dwayne.
Good morning, supervisors. We are east of Osage Road on our patching project, so we will not be having any negative impact on the detour route set by the city of Fairfield. So hopefully now we will be a bad memory that folks will forget. But we are, some good news is we thought we just had the patch crew for today. It looks like we may have them through at least Wednesday, if not Thursday. So we hope to get most of Glasgow Road buttoned up this week if Mother Nature and scheduling cooperate, and that will just leave us Salina Road on our patching project,
Thank.
which Salina Road will take probably 2-3 weeks as well. Needs a lot of love, but we'll do what we can with what we have.
You got a
other than that-
question?
I just have a question on Glasgow Road, with all the patching work, they have plan to restripe that at all?
Yes. Okay. Troy restripes pretty much every year. It's just. And then we also have, I forgot about that, we have partial depth patches on Burlington east and west of town. And that will destroy the center line because that center line joint's starting to deteriorate pretty badly. So that's the main portion of that patch job. And we will have no center line marking signs up for the duration of that patching, and then until I can get in there and get it on, get the center line reestablished. So again, we just ask the public to use common sense and be safe. It's not always easy when you're in a hurry, but what was it? The commercial used to be, the life you save may be your own.
Yeah.
Just take that extra couple of minutes and be cautious. Other than that, Lee, last week he talked to me about property in Abington. I went out there and met with the resident, and he showed me his issue. And I'm not positive, but we went back through his downstream neighbors. It appears the downstream neighbor has widened his driveway in violation of the county ordinance. We found permits for the original construction and another permit to widen it to 60 feet using corrugated metal pipe. And what he has there are 2 plastic pipe exposed, and they extend to 90 feet. So I'm guessing there's 15 feet at each end that were put in violation of the county's ordinance without a permit and without much for design grade, because they are causing a ponding condition in their upstream neighbor. So I need to write him a letter to ask that resident to fix it, or we'll fix it for him. But nobody should have 8 inches of water in their ditch unless it's after a rain event. And this was far enough after, and there was enough dry ground on the next door property that you could see that it was the fact that the pipe extension was put in too high. So that is what we will be doing with that.
I'm sure they were happy. Somebody was. The other one maybe not so much.
Yeah, he's not gonna be very happy. And then, let's see, I'm working on the easements for the Libertyville Road Bridge. I think I've got those pretty well established. I need to meet with Steve Wemme to make sure that I've got my ducks in a row for that and have the valuations at a level that he thinks are reasonable. So both easements will be below $10,000, so they do not trigger a appraisal. But I do need to have the county assessor as a knowledgeable third party
Well, that makes sense.
approve, or at least consult with me and let me know if it's reasonable. Other than that, we're spreading rock and fixing pipe.
Good.
We haven't made any progress on Palm Boulevard in a month or better. It's just too wet to get in there and finish getting that rock in. But it'll dry up eventually and we'll get her finished and then we can close that bridge and open Palm to traffic.
Do you have any start date or anything, any idea on 34 east of Lockridge?
I'm working on the plans on that. I have to have those turned into the DOT June 2nd. I should be able to hit that if nothing comes to distract me.
I talked to Leon Conley a little bit this last week. I told him just to reach out to you, that you had knowledge, but Overland is talking about, well, they're wanting to pave the drives, but I told him, I said, talk to him about a season, because he talked about doing what we did on Monday. I said, that's way too expensive for what you're wanting to do. So, but I told him just to reach out to you.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him on that, but their neighbor is looking at, I think their neighbor's been in contact with them, is investigating splitting up that place to their east. And part of that would be sold to Overland, and then 2 other parcels would be homes, because there's 2 homes on that one parcel. It looks like it would have to be a subdivision, just because of what it's small enough that, and I think it's already subdivided. So I talked with them about the requirements of what the county requires, and first thing they do is that I talked with her. The person told me what they wanted to do, and I advised that they hire a surveyor, get that laid out, and then go through the proceedings. I said it's not an onerous procedure to get a small subdivision gone through if they're already on an existing road and don't have to upgrade any of that. So I'm sure that may come before us in the near future. But
Okay. All right, ready to move on to review and consider plans for project number BRS-C 051-72-60-51.
that is the Libertyville Road project. That is ready for Libertyville Road Bridge project, excuse me. That's ready for signature by the board. I have the cover sheet here for your signature and dating. That is replacing the bridge that's there. I think the existing bridge is 250 feet. The replacement bridge will be 275 feet, so it's going to be a little longer, a little bit higher. And then as part of that project, we will also be flattening that hill a little bit to the east. Right now, it's just short of a 10% grade. We're going to flatten it out to a 7%, which is still awfully steep, but it's about all we can do without being clear out of the ground at the west side of it or causing issues with the adjoining property owners.
Mm.
If you guys choose to approve that, I have the official copy for your signature. Please sign and date if you choose. to.
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Real quickly, while I'm thinking about it, and maybe I didn't get out and look, but I went out on Juniper this last week to do an address for Dow's Quarry.
Mhm.
And on the, after you go around the first curve there, that straight stretch,
Mhm.
on the north side, there were some areas there that looked like we're just sitting on pea gravel.
Yeah, there's at least two spots where that edge is starting to slop
Okay.
off.
I wasn't sure whether it was just me or.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, set date and time for public hearing on vacating an alley and moving.
Need your signature too, Lynn.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was, my bad.
So what do you want to tell us about this one?
Sorry.
The Limby alley?
That was, actually, that Elizabeth isn't here. That was her suggestion. Because I don't know if somebody called her, but she sent me an email that, hey, since we've vacated the two roads that attach to this, we probably ought to vacate the alley since there's no way to get to it. Which I'm not sure how we let that slip when we were going through it, but
All right, so we need at least 2 weeks. So that'd be May 20th. I'll make a motion to do that. Public hearing on vacating an alley in Limby on May 20th at 9 AM.
Shouldn't we have some kind of legal description? It just
For the
says-
motion.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it just says.
Tell you what, why don't we move on and come back to this if
Yeah.
Elizabeth, because she'll probably get here.
Because it just says vacating an alley. Well, there's several alleys in there,
yeah,
Good point, Lee.
and they
Okay,
may all want to go on vacation. I don't-
You're on top of it today. I'm proud of you.
we'll come back to
Sure,
that when
yeah.
Elizabeth gets
Yeah,
here.
unfortunately, I don't think we can do them en masse. We have to have a.
Well, that's what I'm
public hearing on
saying, you
each
know,
one,
that-
right? Yeah, and I don't remember off the top of my head because that was her.
Okay, discuss and consider voiding outstanding inmate commissary checks from 2013 to 2022. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Yeah, you're not necessarily voiding the checks, we'll have to void them. So we went through that account, it's the inmate account. Basically inmates come in and their money goes in a stellar system. It's almost like an ATM. We've got one in the lobby that their family can come and put money on the books. So whenever an inmate's released, they're issued a check. Obviously, there's a lot of small checks
Yeah.
out there. So we'll probably end up doing it once a year. We can go up to a year on a check. And then, so once those are signed, we'll go in and void them, and then we'll write a check to the treasurer for each year. 13 through 22. So 10 checks to the treasurer.
That they just never cashed or?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're
Interesting.
they're hanging out there and,
Uh,
yeah, obviously, somebody that was issued in 2013 also don't have the check. So we didn't do anything in 23, so we'll probably revisit it a year out and just do it kind of a standard thing every year. So I think it totals close to $3,500 over the 10 years.
So just a real quick question. What if I realize that is there a, shall we say, statute of limitations on when the inmate go back and say, hey, I want the money?
Well, I think typically with a bank, at least unused accounts go to the guy with treasurer on, it's still their money, but they have to claim it from the state instead of claiming it from the person holding $2 in their name.
So
I can use
this,
$3,500.
what's that?
I said I can use
Well,
$3,500.
yeah, you could. So basically, we were advised, when our civil office contacted the audit company that does our audit here and said that this is the way we should do it.
Yeah.
So then we can void it and it'll come back to the town.
I would make a motion to void outstanding inmate commissary checks from 2013 through 2022.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Yeah, Bart, thank you very much.
Okay, discuss options for training for county employees on courthouse security. I put this on because we talked about this a few months ago at the department head meeting, and I wanted to make sure that we got this done. So I've been talking with Brett on and off for a few months, and he's been working with Bart, so can we,
Has he got an active monitor?
I know there's a lot of people that would like to see this done, so when could we do this?
Well, and I brought Tyler, he's done some training for various hospital schools, that type of thing, him and one of our reserve deputies, Kent Law. So he's has some questions on what your expectations are, whatever I brought.
And I know we've got
Brett's
some-
on board, we've talked, so.
We've got some department heads I know on Zoom, so if we don't hit the right. My memory recollects that there was some interest in active shooter training and what to do and what else out there, department heads that are on.
Well, I would think that, I mean, we're covering some of this in the safety handbook that we're writing. But I guess I would say, you know, active intruder, active shooter is a very popular thing, but overall, when it comes down to your facility here, it's just like any other facility, public health, wherever, you know, they have to have their own game plan. So you can do courthouse security training on active intruder, but when it comes down to it, you know, there's a bigger picture of, because that's probably one of the least things that could happen. So you have to have more in depth for your own facility here, which would involve everybody that comes to work here, including your public too. Who's in charge of evacuations? Who's in charge of shelter in place? I mean, who makes that determination? You know, as an outside threat, there's someone wandering around the neighborhood. Sheriff's Department calls and says you need to, you know, lock your doors or whatever. Who's in charge in here, making sure that's relayed? How do you get the information to everybody that's in the building? If it's a natural disaster, if it's a train derailment, you know, those are all internal things for your specific building, which we would tell everybody in every department, which we have been. They need to figure that out. The communication path is crucial in anything. So I don't know if you designate somebody. So when you're talking about courthouse security, election time riots are a possibility. Maybe not here, but it is a possibility. You have packages being mailed to courthouses that have foreign substances in them that are dangerous to people. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into security in a facility, especially a courthouse. And so I'm not sure how in depth and where you want to start with that at, but the active shooter stuff is fairly, I mean, it's not simple, but it's done all the time. I mean, I know Tyler, we go to these schools and stuff and other facilities and talk about it, but there's a lot more stuff when it comes to courthouse security than just an active intruder or shooter situation.
So, does the court system have its own set of rules and in other words, their plan already in place, or would this be in conjunction with them as well?
I don't know if they have their own plan necessarily in place, but they have the ability to make their own rules, like pertaining specifically to the courtroom.
And there's a courtroom or courthouse security that Myron's.
Yeah, it's led by Judge Gookin.
Yeah. But I don't think there's a set. I mean, there's stuff out there. You can do lots of training on courthouse security. There's all kinds of training that you can participate in. And if you're going to be someone that's making decisions for the facility, I would think you would want to get some of that training that covers the overall security of it.
Well, that's what I was saying, was that we would all be on the same page as far as whatever the procedures and policies are.
Aren't you on that committee, Susan?
Yeah, as chair I was. I would, think whatever Myron does in that committee should follow, we should follow that, so we aren't
Don't they
reinventing
usually
the
meet
wheel.
this time of year sometime?
It's been a while.
It's been a while
Yeah,
since
it's
we've
been,
met.
it was
Once a
last
year.
November.
But those are topics, I mean, if you want to discuss active, do a training for your employees, that's what,
Yeah, I think that's kind of what the department heads,
Okay.
department heads that are on Zoom, do you have any comments on this? What you want to see?
With the training coming up, would that benefit anybody attending
which training.
the one the school's doing? Not sure of.
Yeah, the schools are doing a training May 30th. And they're following the protocol of I love you guys, which is it's kind of like around High Five, it's kind of like owls, it's just a new, a lot of schools are going to I love you guys, it's easier. They're doing a train on May 30th at the school to go over their school stuff, but I can look into that and see if that would be something that we could send a couple people from here. But again, you're talking about multiple departments in one building or multiple offices in one building. And I guess the overall picture would be like, the first thing is communication and how are you getting that out if something's coming up? And then you go into, if a situation arises, someone's in here, that's what.
So
that's here for.
based on your training and experience with other similar kinds of organizations, what would you recommend for a communication system for us? I mean, typically everything goes through the auditor's office
Oh, go ahead.
as far as.
You guys-
Don't you have sort of a security team, or I don't know what you call them, like, Wendy and Mark, and what are they considered?
Mark?
Is there four of
Assessor
them?
and treasurer.
What's that?
So assessor and treasurer.
I don't know.
Nothing official that I've ever known,
Okay.
And you have a panic button, right? 'Cause we get calls that you get.
but I think we need retrain
How
on
do you
that.
communicate within the building?
Yeah, that's what we need to
Right.
do.
Is there like an overhead PA or like a way like through the phone that you can like do a page or
Do you have,
something like that?
yeah. Do you have a designated evacuation sites in case of a fire for accountability? Those are the kind of
We
things.
used to have that up when I first started and then I don't know where to go. I think they painted and did some stuff.
I think there's an evacuation map on the
It's better.
floor above, yeah.
But I would just suggest if you're gonna do, and we tell people this all the time, coming from the private sector in safety, we drill because we were,
D, that should not be on the screen.
Lee, you wanna take this? Since you're not gonna.
Just telling, I mean,
Hey, we probably ought not to have any political things on the screen for a public meeting.
um,
Come on, Tom.
I don't think he's on mute or what. Is he on mute?
Chauncey,
There we go.
so
yeah,
back.
thank you.
So but they're governed under OSHA, right? So those are required. And what we tell everybody is whatever we come up with, whatever you guys come up with, and whatever training you want to do, it has to be, you have to not file away in a file cabinet for 5 years. And
Right.
the communication and the knowledge is what's key in any safety training and any protocols you're going to use.
Hey, B.
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to figure out, you guys attended, some of you attended all three of the tabletop scenarios and some of you hopped on and attended one or whatever. What, are you wanting something like that we did last year as a county preparedness group or?
no,
mean, yeah,
I
you-
think that a department had a while back, people were really interested and it's interesting, they're quiet now, but they really wanted, I think, a more evacuation. And that type of thing is what I'm remembering. I don't think
Well, we
you were
had a
there.
years-
Yeah, all of the evacuation plans should be posted in
deputy
like for
training that
severe
we-
storm. We did all that several years ago with the safety committee, but who knows where they're all at now.
And
And
is this something the safety committee wants to undertake for the building? I just want to get this done because it keeps coming up and nothing ever happens. So I would like something to actually get resolved on it.
can I make a suggestion? When's the next department head meeting? Is it
We
and I
can have
would,
it the fourth,
I would ask
It'd be
that
the
this be on the
22nd.
agenda. I would ask that this be put on the agenda. So then, and then the department heads can bring what they specifically want out of this. I mean, it's easy to say they want somebody to have, you know, an evacuation plan or a scenario or a tabletop exercise, but we need to know, I mean, from the preparedness perspective on what people need and what their baseline knowledge is.
okay,
I mean, that would be helpful for all of us that are involved in preparedness.
What I'm getting out of this conversation too, that the safety committee can take up is maybe making sure that there's that information about who is the safety officer, whether it be for the department or for the building. And then any evacuation plan and a means of communication. And that's something that we can talk about in the safety committee so that we can get some of those basics down and then go from there. Chris, like you were saying, if the department heads want something more, but at least making sure that everybody knows where they can find that information about who is the safety officer, evacuation plans.
I would certainly welcome a recommendation from the safety committee.
Okay.
I would also like to hear a recommendation to start with from these three gentlemen, because
Well,
that's kind of what they do.
if you're doing just active shooter, active intruder, that's what Tyler's, I mean,
Yeah.
the other stuff is kind of in your yearly stuff that you should be doing and knowledgeable on those subjects, but you know, the active shooter training is a little, it's kind of its own animal, I guess.
So Brett, we're part of timer on, the panic button is pushed. You know, I get alerts on my phone every time, so will that come up on my phone?
I don't believe so.
It
No,
goes to the
No.
sheriff's office, right?
no, it comes across the radio.
Okay.
Well, I just didn't know whether or not when I get the alerts and everything for,
Well, that's special. I mean, we could check in to see if that's possible through the Alert Iowa program, but it would have to be manually put in by dispatch to go out to the employees in this building. And then I'm not sure.
okay, that was,
Pretty
I
involved
just
process.
didn't know.
It's kind of, I mean, what he's talking about is kind of what the school's doing. They have big iPads and they can link it to their phone and they can set a alert button off and it'll be sent to certain people and go to every classroom. that
Probably
kind
the
of
thing that could potentially happen is the auditor's office is typically the recipient in the courthouse things. If somebody had a alert or something, get it to them and they could do an email. I mean, that's pretty much a system we have. I don't think we have.
I believe we already have that in place, guys.
Yeah,
Okay, because I remember several years ago, I just pulled into the Ivy parking lot, and got out of the car, and my phone went off.
Mm-hmm.
Because a panic button had been pushed. And Ray was doing a test and he had notified, but it came across my phone and it didn't say test. So I'm back in the car going 100 miles an hour to public health.
I don't know what you're,
So that's why I,
And you can have it sent to your email. or
was
your
everybody on
text.
that?
I have it sent to your work email.
Does it-
That's not helpful if you're not sitting at your desk.
I don't know, it was set up that way.
well, I don't know that it still is, but it was then because of the running through the parking lot, heading to the door, all of a sudden it dawned on me, what the hell am I gonna do when I get in the door? But my point is that
it seems like we need training on the panic buttons, because I know I got like, oh, here's this button, just push it and the sheriff's office will come. That was my training.
So back to,
We should check to see.
if you wanna
Go
know,
working.
Yeah.
Right, I was wondering if there was like some notification, like that the battery's dead, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
that-
Ray does that.
Oh, he does,
Yeah.
for this building?
Mm-hmm. He
So,
monitors
but I
all of
wonder,
those.
like, we have panic buttons in our building.
I think between the safety committee and everybody here, we can, but if you wanna do an active intruder, active shooter training, it's be, you know, that's why you can do
I
the
would
training,
like
I'd
to-
help facilitate, you can take half your employees for 2 hours on a date set, and then the other half that are in this building, and another, include the
Yeah.
supervisors, and just get that done.
Let's get that set up, let the safety committee make us, it sounds like we have
If it's
pieces
okay
in
with Mark.
place, they just haven't been reviewed with everybody for a while, so let's get that done. So we got two tracks, kind of. One's active intruder and one's
Right.
Yeah.
the normal.
Or are you thinking for like all county employees or just for the court?
The courthouse was the main thing that was brought up because every building has their own.
Sure.
So let's start with the courthouse, and then if somebody else wants it, they can certainly reach out to Bart and you and Brett. So if that's okay, if you want to set up some, couple times in minutes. Thank
Can I say
you.
something to you?
Sure.
With what's going on how at these college universities and stuff right now, what would happen if a group would come into this lobby? Are you prepared for that? I mean, it's just something we got to get to thinking about.
Well,
There was a group on Saturday afternoon in Fairfield on Burlington, and I just thought about that.
here's what I know about that. A few years ago, we had some friendly, I'm gonna use the word protesters, but they weren't really protesting. They were acting out, doing it, some kind of act. Remember, it was a Friday and they came in here and made all sorts of noise and they were dressed up and everybody was like, what's going on? And at that time, it was like, as long as they're peaceful, okay, I'm looking at the attorney. As long as they're peaceful, they have that right. But I do know people in the building were concerned and scared because there was a lot of noise.
But something like that, don't you think he should be notified right away just to get up here to monitor things? I mean,
It would make
I hate to
sense.
see something like that happen, but the way things are going,
Right.
what are you gonna do? Do you start
Yeah.
locking your doors?
I think people in this building are usually pretty aware of what's going on. I know all the department heads are, and I'm fairly certain somebody would.
The square is very active
Mhm.
with protest all the time. When I was on there were protests all the time.
So, but that's, certainly something as we go through all this, we should include.
I'm not poking at the bear.
Mark,
Mark,
Mark, Chris, Sandy, you were on. Any comments? Right.
To be
Okay.
honest, if we have anybody coming in from the school in a large group, it's the last Monday of the month and they're trying to get their drive test scheduled.
This was a Friday afternoon and there was some,
Yeah, I think we're all
Peaceful.
adult enough to Joe's point. I think we're all adult enough that if there is some kind of an issue going on, I'm pretty sure we can get it figured out enough to call the sheriff's
Yeah.
office if we need to.
you're all very resourceful and good with that. Yes.
No, and this is why we still have a locked door post-pandemic, because sometimes there's just one of us here. And I don't want to be a sitting duck or have my staff be alone in the building and not have access to assistance. We do have panic buttons here, as you guys know. And I thought Ray did check those. I don't know if it was annually or twice a year. I can't remember. And I don't know where he's at with that process. So thanks.
All right, let's move on. Anything else on this? Otherwise we'll move on. Sounds like we got a plan. All right,
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
open and consider bids to evaluate the processes and operations at Jefferson County. Ambulance service. Does Chauncey have those? Do you have those?
Everybody or just the chair?
All three.
At each page?
All right, what do we have here?
Oh, okay. If I got it, this is on.
Let me get the papers mixed up. All right, we have one. I'll pass around. Here, there's three of them. Why don't we each take one and look at it? Okay. We can pass me. That one I gave you, are you done with it? You need to sign each one of these.
Yep, they all need to be signed.
Okay, those are the ones you need.
No, you asked if we need it.
Oh, yeah, evacuation or shelter in place.
But it's one of those basic channels of communication in place. That's like the thousand.
Okay. So one's clearly out, it's like 47,000. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Yes,
These other two are pretty close. One says that their travel's included, one doesn't say anything about travel. One talks about this GMT, which since our Medicaid, we already had that discussion that that was currently not a big factor. Eventually it will be, maybe, but you know, our Medicaid's not significant, so that's not relevant. One is 10,000 base with a total not to exceed 15. One is 11,000, so
What is what?
11. And that was after the other one was said last week in the public meeting of what it was, so I imagine that's why this one came in at 11. Let's see. One's national and one's Iowa based. Or one says they have a national team. And oh no, I just said, remember, oh gosh, in 2018, when you were doing that analysis with Henry County, wasn't there a consultant hired then?
Yes,
Yeah, $50,000.
That one was 50.
We split it between. us.
right, our cost was 25.
Yeah.
That was a whole different
Right,
thing than you're doing
no, I
here.
know that. This is like an audit. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, preferences, thoughts?
Just for clarification purposes, did this, Workforce Solutions, did they resubmit a bid? Okay.
Yeah, that's this one.
All things being equal,
I just didn't know whether they resubmitted it.
all things being equal, I know it's a recent bid, but if they're the same or roughly the same, and they provide the same services, the one that submitted the bid previously might be one to consider, considering that the numbers we talked about in an open meeting last week.
And I think we could probably negotiate 10,000 because when I was gone last week, I did a bunch of work and we sent it to you guys yesterday, but I copied it. One of them being an analysis of our current actual. Got too many papers here. This is for the job description. So I got a draft of that one too. Okay, everything is signed. Right here. So Darcy gave me actual hours worked. And then I looked up from the 16 hours of, we've had 16 hours of pay period through the end of April. So the total non-salary hours worked were 1,600, total salary 1,280, pay period 16 hours of overtime 2,831, that's 17% of the budget. Average OT hours per pay period 177. And average hours per week overtime 88. Again, these are all just based on averages, but it's a point in time. Because what I was trying to figure out is overtime cheaper than hiring FTEs. If you consider, and I just used $29 and you want to say putting that overtime, 1.25 for benefits. That is going to be about $78,416. And the cost of the overtime with the to date is $105,000. And so you're about what? 2/3 of the way through the budget. So that'll go up. It's going to be hard to hire enough. You're going to need at least 3 people to cover the schedule if you hire full-time people. And the overtime appears to be cheaper
Well, you also.
for what they're doing
remember,
now.
hiring EMTs, there's a little more flexibility there than there is hiring. these days.
Right,
But I want to go back to this other thing. First off, this workforce solutions, were they involved in the previous staff issue?
Yeah.
Do you not think that there's a little bit of a bias and conflict there if we were to hire them, considering that? In other words, I'm not convinced that you could get an accurate assessment just simply because they have some built-in biases, intentional or unintentional, because of the process that they went through, number one. Number two, in the whole context of the discussion, we have a billing company that are professionals, and it makes no sense to me to go out and pay somebody else to do what we're paying them to do in terms of determining whether or not we're getting the best value. In other words, they are professionals. That's what we hired them to do. We went through multiple billing companies and arrived at that conclusion with the company that we've had. Number three, in the scope of the services that were provided to us, you know, that they would do an on-site visit to, among other things, discuss and determine employee morale. I think that that's our job to do, and I
Yeah.
don't think we need to pay somebody $15,000 or $10,000, whatever, to do it. That we need to go out and have that conversation to see what, you know, what their thought process is. And all I'm saying is that it makes no sense to me to spend this kind of money. You know, Mark brought up some good points last week. And, you know, the salient point of what Mark brought up was, this is our job. These are our employees.
that's right. And you know what? So again, when the contract was breached in December, that was on a Tuesday and Friday, I was in Mount Pleasant gathering data from them. I came back, I talked to Washington County, them, Lee County. I had 2 file folders full of information I gave to Brian when he started, went through them with him. And basically said, call these people and get some other ideas, because networking with some of the peers are the best way to get the information.
I'm not
And-
disagreeing with what you did. You didn't evidently hear what I said.
I did,
What I'm saying is that it makes no sense to spend $10,000 to $15,000 to do what our job is.
right, and we've been doing our job, we just want. The other thing I did was I looked online at IAMSA to see what kind of, because they list their staffing patterns on there. I connected with Iowa County. He actually sent me a bunch of
Yeah,
information.
I saw your email.
And, you know, we're running, what, 16 to 1,700 calls? They're on task 1,750, and our budget's a lot less than theirs is. So that made me feel pretty good. We're getting there. We know it's a new startup operation. The purpose of this is to see, I think we need some checks and balances maybe on inventory control in talking. Judy and I have been in conversation probably every day for the last 10 days, except for yesterday and maybe one other day. We've either texted, emailed, or talked in person or otherwise. I think all that's coming. The idea of this is just to say, hey, we've been at this several months now. Let's see if we're on the right path.
Well, and you talk about inventory controls. Let's go back there for a second. I mean, because not to confuse anybody, we have a significant inventory control when it comes to drugs. Because our
Yeah.
drugs are maintained, our narcotics are maintained at the hospital.
Right.
And everything
right.
is accounted for, not only what we take out of the hospital, but what we use, because the hospital knows exactly
Yep.
what we have.
And that's
And
good.
then those are kept under lock and key. Let me clarify that. They're kept under lock and key at the base. And then when they're put in the rig, but when they're used, that is obviously part of the report. And the hospital has to verify that before they'll release anymore. The supplies, the Band-Aids, the gauze, the tubing, we buy that from Boundary. That's where that where that comes in. Again, I think you're spending money that doesn't need to be spent. If you want to implement inventory controls, you've got somebody that you put in charge, whomever that might ultimately end up being. Those are circumstances that I just feel like that we need to be individually and collectively how do I want to say this? I personally don't think we need somebody to run interference for us. think
I
we
would
can
like
handle it
to see us, we can each.
He
collect
says,
research.
it sounds like D is saying that the former director was not doing his job. There is a new director now, interim or not. There are things that can and should be done in-house. The Board of Supervisors need to speak to the auditor and the treasurer's office to see the potential issues are happening at the administrative level.
I'm not saying he didn't do his job, I just said I gave him a bunch of information and wanted him to call, and I don't think that happened.
About what?
I did do my job. I was very efficient.
Yeah. No, just early on, and like with posting of Judy's job on IAMSA that she ended up getting, I think it was just posted here. Okay, so what do you want to do here? What are your thoughts on this?
I think she said that to me.
Initially, my thought is, even though Workforce Solutions initially was involved in this, maybe they are a little step further into in auditing this than the first person would be.
I'm going to put it.
Disappeared into the
Okay,
cloud.
so
See that?
Yeah.
I think she forgot to turn her mic off.
if we don't do this, one thing I would ask is that maybe we have a work session once a week and sit down with what we all,
And
Got it.
that's our job, and I think that's perfect.
because what has been happening is they can't have three bosses.
No, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. What I'm saying is that I believe that is our responsibility to do. And I certainly think that we're intelligent enough people to be able to have a conversation with professionals and ask questions. We do it with the sheriff, we do it with the engineer. And you're right, it's a new operation, and I get that, but
And to correct you, they do have three bosses. They might have one point of contact, but all three are their bosses.
which
Yeah,
point well taken, that's true too.
and it's,
And it sometimes has its, that's what I'm looking for, I don't want to say hiccups, but, I get what's,
It's no different than those of us that are appointed and have a board, like myself,
yeah,
like conservation, Sandy. I mean, if you're not an elected official, I mean, it's just like Dwayne, he reports to the three of you. I report to the Board of Health. So, and I have a chair of my Board of Health and a vice chair, just like you guys. So I don't know why it seems to be so difficult for the supervisory role to be outlined and to be followed, because all of us report to somebody.
I just go back, you guys are, obviously you can call for the question. I just think that it falls within our purview. And I don't think that, I don't need somebody to run cover for me. I think that we can go in and do the job.
My question immediately is, we've been doing this for a year.
Mhm.
What have we done wrong? What have we allowed to not happen or to happen? It's been a year, Lee.
Right. And so I guess if you have that question, then what you said, okay, so you meet, you have the work sessions, whatever you want to call it, to get, more involved, in terms of even having I mean, we used to, we don't so much anymore, but we used to go out every year and have conversation with
The road department.
representatives from the road department. And, we didn't micromanage the engineer, but there were things that the employees of the road department brought into the discussion each year during budget time, and so we would have those conversations. I know that's
So we
not
could do
comparing
that.
apples to apples, but my point simply is that, I also feel like that if I'm an individual, whether it be Dwayne, whether it be Chris, whoever, you know, Judy, whomever the case may be, I think if we started calling in people to look at other departments, that those individuals running those departments would have some great concern as well. And I just think that the partnership needs to be between us and our staff and not between
Judy on the phone?
us.
that's your medical director.
Oh, okay. Can she get on Zoom?
So, okay,
Did
so,
you hear? That was our medical director trying to call in.
okay.
Um,
All right, so what do you want to do here? I'm okay, either way.
I've made my 2 cents worth, 2.5, maybe up to 3.
Folks, can I ask you guys a couple of questions real
Sure.
quick, just simple yes or no? Is your concern with the efficiency of the ambulance service, is it more administrative or day to day? In essence, are you guys more concerned with the people that are going out on the trucks? Or are you concerned with
Now,
what
No.
happens in the office? So if you guys are concerned with only what's happening in the office, then there are other departments within the courthouse, namely the treasurer and the auditor, that handle both receivable and payable stuff from them. And I think it would be, to Lee's point, to my point last week, it would be good to handle this stuff in-house because you already have the assets there.
yeah, and we've been through that setup, those
Excuse me.
processes.
The only
No,
thing you guys
this
have
was
ever
just-
asked me is, will you take over the bank account? So I'm not sure exactly what processes you're talking about, but I think
when
there
we've
are
been-
things that the two offices could help with. And it's free.
When we've been talking about how to get the money from point A to point B and all that, we went through that.
That's the bank account. That's literally a 30-second thing. We took care of that, no problem.
Mhm. I think it'd be helpful to get some
Somebody just had a comment or a question.
clarification.
There's lots of comments coming through.
Oh, are there?
Yeah.
Well, this is a public meeting that's on Zoom. It's not like a Zoom meeting. We don't have that.
How can you see that and I can't?
Yeah,
It pops up and then goes away.
Oh, okay.
Right.
so either somebody make a motion or don't make a motion. I can go either way.
I would like to see us postpone this decision for a week until after we talk to the interim ambulance director this afternoon.
Okay. I'll go with that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's see. Where'd my agenda go? I buried it.
That table.
I don't see that.
Okay.
See,
Here,
it?
you-
What happened?
Right here, right on the table.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Discuss and consider budget reappropriations to environmental health.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
Whereas. Above whereas it is desired to appropriate additional budget to Department 27 Environmental Health and Service Area 3000 Physical Health and Social Services due to expenses related to the sanitarian's retirement, and whereas Service Area 3000 within Department 31 District Court has $100,417.24 budget remaining for the allocation for juvenile detention and shelter care. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County that a reappropriation of service area 3,000 in the amount of $12,000 from the district court budget to the environmental health budget be made.
Now Shannon came in before the meeting to, I think, based on what I heard from her, this is a Board of Health decision, and you have a meeting Thursday, so that we could save this for next week and still be within the timeline, correct, Shannon?
Well, this wouldn't be a budget memo, where we were up against it. The way I understood it was the budget amendment process had to be done before May 9th, but this is a reappropriation.
Right,
So
which can wait.
if I, shall I go ask?
It's my understanding that they need this, but I guess I wasn't involved in your conversation this morning.
Well, that's true. There's $4,600 in the account and we owe $6,500 a month.
It's my understanding that it's a timing issue and it is on the agenda for the Board of Health. I don't, is Joe sitting there? Yeah, it's on the Board of Health. It's on the Board of Health's agenda, but it's a timing issue. And the Board of Health can't, I mean, they have to come to the supervisors anyway. So it's a matter of semantics. The board is fully aware that that they have to have a budget amendment for environmental health, or they're not going to be able to make it through the end of the fiscal year. And it's due to the payout of Dan's.
And for clarification, this is, and Chris is right. When we had the conversation, we were up against a timeline, but in this case, it's a reappropriation from one fund to another. So it's not a budget amendment per se. So, we're just moving
Yeah.
money.
Okay. So,
But wait a minute, I have why is this needed? Because they need money. I thought you said it was gonna cost us $6,500 a month
Right.
for this. We're way over
Pay
that.
out Dan.
Well,
Yeah.
you've got $4,600 left from Dan's budget.
Mhm,
We paid out $9,000 when Dan retired.
mhm.
You add that to the 4,600, you got enough to pay the 6,500 a month.
So it's 9,000 instead of 12?
Well, right, that covers the 6,500 a month, but any incidental expenses.
What would those have been?
I don't know that there'll be any. I
Okay.
just, this is,
Yeah.
so you don't have to come back and do it again, as far as
Yeah.
that aspect of it goes.
sure.
Because the money just goes right back to the general fund.
There's gonna be some, because he's gonna have to send out some certified letters and stuff.
Okay,
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
all right, I'll make a motion, we do this for your appropriation.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, discuss fiscal year 2024 budget amendment.
that'd be number 3. So we put,
Somebody's wanting to speak there.
do what?
Oh,
What's the plan?
Whoa, hey, Dr. Reed was online.
Okay,
So how do we get out of her? Is she in?
she's in.
she's in the chat. She wants to say anything. There's,
Her mic is on.
okay. So this, let's discuss fiscal year 2024 budget amendment. Anything on that, Brittany, from your perspective?
I don't have any.
I think she just put that in here.
Honestly,
Do you want to go ahead and set date and time
I guess she just wants a,
for
Public
public
hearing.
hearing on fiscal year 2024 budget amendment? May 20th,
May 28th.
May 28th, 9 AM? Okay,
so,
yeah,
Second.
I made a motion,
Second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, committee reports.
Oh, excuse me, are you going to set the date and time for the public hearing on vacating that alley in Linby?
Oh, no,
Oh,
we need to
thank
go back to that.
you. Yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about that. Thank you
Yeah.
that you're here. Can you enlighten us?
Yeah, so it came to my attention, Shannon sent me an email basically that there is a section of an alley in Linby south of Gamble, I think. And anyway, it's surrounded by private property on both sides, and the alleyway south of this portion has also already been vacated. So it dead ends into a street, private property on both sides, private property to the south. So in light of that, I brought it to your attention to maybe set a time to discuss vacating it, and I can send out all the appropriate letters, and IOCO allows the board to go ahead and do that, even if a property owner doesn't bring it to your attention first. You just need to determine whether or not it serves any other public use any longer.
So how much time then do you need to?
I would say a couple of weeks, I can get the letters out today, and then there are only 2 adjacent property owners.
So is May 20th okay for a
Sure.
public hearing?
I'd make a motion to set May 20th as a public hearing to vacate alley in Linby. Don't misunderstand how this sounds, Elizabeth, subject to legal description and sending out of letters to
Yeah, of
adjoining
course.
property owners.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay, committee reports.
I planted flowers.
I had CETA last week and they're working out a bunch of, pardon me?
I'd almost switch and give you ECI for CETA.
No, I don't think so. Anyway, they're just looking at how much money they may have to hold over because they're just kind of like some other agencies are, where you can hold over so much money, you've got to spend stuff. And I know they're going forward with the new daycare center out there, making a daycare center. There had been some contention earlier about whether or not they would accept the hospitals. The hospital in Tumwa's place, or if they'd go to Indian Hills. And for some reason, that has changed several times. I don't know where it landed.
Oh, you know, okay, I just,
The other one is the workforce meeting, which is of great frustration to me.
sure it is.
So what's going on with that? Because
Do you feel things?
Words.
did they talk about their financial situation?
No. No. They did not. And I'm not sure I can right now either.
Okay.
But it's very frustrating to see the workforce going to the state more and more like it's doing, as opposed to what it was prior, you know. But I feel that people up there are good people and they're doing the best they can with what they've got to work with. Anyway, thank you.
Actually, I really didn't have anything this last week. So, other than I did bring in Marvin Taylor to see how much Freon needed my air conditioner, and it was full, so saved me a bunch of money there. So
You can report on ECI again if you would.
Well, that reminds me, by the by, just so you know, because I was not aware until I got the agenda, I have ECI budget at 2 PM on Zoom.
Today?
Yes, and next month.
Thank
as
you for
well.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
You're more than welcome to
No,
participate.
no.
So I was on,
Did you miss it?
was it Thursday? We got a letter from Adrian Dickey about they needed a letter for that project, and Dwayne just left.
Mhm.
About 1/10, so I quickly wrote a letter of support in that, and this is for those grant dollars that we're supposed to be getting from the federal government, the Miller Mixes group's been working on, that somehow at the federal level, there was an error, and then
Oh, sure. no.
it was gonna be next year, and then it turned out they needed letters by Friday. So I put a letter together quickly and sent it.
I don't know that I
That's
want to know
support.
the answer to this question, but does that mean it hasn't been appropriated?
Correct.
You
I think-
are, you are accurate. It has not, and it's not likely to. That's why he was.
That's why he wanted letters, and so I sent a letter of support, and we'll see. And I called Dwayne just to double check. And so the bottom line is the same for the county, whether it gets funded through that grant, it's gonna be constructed for the longer term. If the county ends up doing like a crack seal project, it'll be that, but the dollars are the same, whether it's the 20% for the grant or we did a crack seal, so. And then I worked with Jack a little on the job description, which we have a work session on, so we can see if we want to combine those. And yes, that's it. Allow claims.
So we want to let Dr. Marino speak or not?
Does anybody else want to speak today?
What, small week, good week?
Hey, Dee, I just want to make sure, I gotta send out a revised Board of Health agenda. There's a additional item. I just want to make sure, do I need to change the verbiage or do I need to even have the budget amendment request on their agenda?
She does. I don't think you do, Chris. I think it's good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna remove it then. I just wanted to close that loop and make sure that I didn't need to do anything different. So I'll take that off. Thank you. I'll let the Board of Health know, in addition to Joe. Thanks.
Joe, you don't, I'll let you know ahead of time, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
So Susie,
Yes,
you
sir.
watched the basketball game Friday night? Pretty good game.
20 points, only playing 3/4 is pretty
Yeah.
good.
I don't know what they're.
Okay,
Yeah, I just want to say one thing.
No.
Okay. So everybody knows there are snow events in January.
Snow.
We declared it. a
Oh, yeah.
Local disaster, turned in,
Yeah.
several counties that did that. FEMA denied the governor's request for funding for that, so I believe the state will try to appeal that, but I just appreciate all the work that everybody did getting those numbers together. That was Dwayne did a really good job.
Well, and
His office,
by
yeah.
extension, our road crews were phenomenal too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
I just kind of throw that out. We got the letter last week that got done.
okay, thank you. Okay, I'll make a motion. We approve $39,091.44.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
So
motion to adjourn meeting and then we'll take a break and start a work session.
if I can, after we adjourn,
Take a break.
yeah.
Are you gonna adjourn?
That's why we're adjourning.
Is that
Adjourn.
right? That's a motion. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.